We Are Many Things is brought to you by North York Community House. North York Community House is an organization that builds strong, resilient, and inclusive communities in Northwest Toronto. Hello, my name is Sharron, and I am the host of the podcast, We Are Many Things. And this series is premised on the idea that communities are not monoliths, that they are an amalgam of shared and varied histories, traditions, languages, experiences, and so much more. But the labels that are used to describe them rarely capture their greatness. So this podcast aims to create a space where members of various communities can explore their shared and varied experiences and what makes their community wonderfully unique. So this season, we'll be showcasing the richness and the diversity that can be found within the Black community. This is episode 4 of We Are Many Things, and we are joined by my guests, Adyam, Casey, and Rickysha. In this episode, we'll be discussing the value of representation and whether or not it's important to see people who look like you reflected in every facet of society. I hope you'll enjoy the conversation. So, how important is representation, seeing yourself in positions of authority in movies or reading books by authors who look like you and who have a similar background? How important is representation? Rickysha?
For me, I find representation to be very, very important, especially in the society that we live in today. For me, what hits me the most is not for myself, but for my son. He's currently in grade 2, and I send him to a school called the Afrocentric Alternative School, which aims to provide an educational environment that celebrates Black culture, promotes self-empowerment, and foster a strong sense of identity and pride. And I think it's very important for him because I know myself. I know who I am, and I know what I stand for and my beliefs. But for him, he's still growing up and still trying to learn who he is and trying to develop himself. Attending this school educates him and empowers him, and he sees people that look like him, not within the household, not within our family unit, but outside. And it feels like it's very important for him to witness this and also see a representation within the Black community.
Okay, so there's a lot there. So let me ask you this. How do you think being in that environment that your son is in, and how do you think that's going to impact him later in life? What are your hopes for him?
I feel like when he's around like-minded people similar to him, he's able to relate and be himself, and it also encourages him to be the best version of himself as well. And I like that for him, and I want the best for him, and that's the reason why I put him in this school, because I'm really big on education. As a person of color, I feel we have an internal responsibility of being a light for others, and we have to set an example and develop a sense of self, and that's what I want for him to learn.
Okay, thank you for that. Adyam, what do you think?
So for me personally, I think representation is a good thing to have, although I can say that I'm not mostly focused on it in terms of certain things. I can relate to a lot of characters in terms of movies because of their personality, how they present themselves, their work ethics, and everything like that. So it's not as if it's something that I'm only focused on, but I think it's really important because there are certain things that only a certain community experiences, and I think that there are a lot of things that the Black community faces, and it's good to see that representation as I can relate and put myself in that position.
I think for me, I think representation, thank you for that point, by the way. I think representation can exist, I think can coexist with, a diverse environment. I think you can have both. I definitely think that representation is important because I think for me, representation challenges norms and false narratives, and so I think it's important because I think representation is important because if you see yourself in positions of people who look like you in positions of authority, if you see yourself in great works of art or creating great works of art, if you see people who look like you doing amazing things, that has a huge impact or a profound impact on your outlook. And we talked earlier about expectations, and I think representation affords you at times to have greater expectations for yourself, because you can see that, oh my goodness, that person just did A, B, and C. I can do that. I can do better, right? So I absolutely think it's important. And like you, though, I think there is diversity and being in a diverse environment with people from different backgrounds and different ways of thinking. I agree with you. I think that's also important because that stretches you. So from my perspective, I think that it's important, but I absolutely important for me. But I also appreciate a diversity of thought and diversity in general, because I think we have a lot to learn from that. Well, it's interesting. Maybe I should ask the question, what does representation mean to you? Only because I was just thinking, if you happen to travel to another country or something and there are not a lot of people, like when I travel wherever, I look around and say, okay, who's around? You know what I mean? So I'm always looking around. So representation in that context might just be seeing somebody else who looks like you, right? Mm-hmm. So what does representation mean to you? Maybe I'll start with you, Casey. What does that mean?
In my opinion, representation means the act of standing in for someone or something. It's a symbol or a depiction of art, media, politics, and so on. As a girl from Grenada, Carriacou, and Petite Martinique, representation could embody anything from a mix of cultural pride, vibrant traditions, and our historical resilience. Representation might mean a showcase of our traditional attire, traditional foods, our music, our carnival and Rainbow City festivals, sharing our folklore stories with the young ones, our beautiful, tranquil nature, and our different spices. Representation can also mean that our people, no matter where they go, keep our strong cultural, family values and our patriotism. Most importantly, representation to me means a strong sense of self, presenting oneself to the world the way we want to be viewed.
Thank you for that. Rickysha, what does representation mean to you?
To me, representation is that feeling of an internal responsibility in setting a positive example for others to see. When we represent and reflect our communities, it shows, and this is how people view us. Also, another point is creating a safe space. I believe that creating a safe space when you're around people similar to you makes them feel warm, makes them feel comfortable to be themselves. All the insecurities that you felt before could probably disappear from just looking at somebody similar to you. So I feel like being amongst people, you create that safe space within each other, in a space that you may not even feel welcomed in the first place.
So it's about also creating safe spaces wherever we happen to be. Adyam, any thoughts on that?
I think it's kind of like a motivation tool, I guess, as everyone has mentioned. It's kind of something that you want to see because, for example, you don't want to be the starter. You don't want to be like, oh, I don't see. Like, I'm more likely to want to be something where I see people of my color, kind of. So if I want to go into a certain field and I don't see a lot of people of my color, I'm bound to think that there must be some challenges, or people of my color maybe aren't meant to do that, and it might kind of direct me somewhere else. So I think it's kind of a motivation tool where you see someone who looks like you, and it kind of motivates you to do something similar or to do something out of what you would normally do, I guess.
I definitely agree with what you said, and also bringing back to what Casey mentioned about children. Like me growing up, I had lots of Barbies, and these Barbies never looked like me. So the representation was never there. But now I'm seeing it even more, even in the movie The Little Mermaid, and other things as well. Like, there's so many things that young people can relate to, And I feel like representation is important because we see people, we see possibilities that we can evolve and things that we can be. And I feel like it's encouraging. And also with the stereotypes and colorism and things like that, if you don't see representation in yourself, then you're not seeing the possibilities.
I'm just gonna add a little bit because I think that sometimes, I don't know if anyone agrees with this, but for example, the Little Mermaid movie, I loved it before, and I feel like there's a black actress playing a role that I had known was a white actress, and I personally don't like that. I would like it to be, if you wanted to cast a black actress, make a role that is like, for example, The Princess and the Frog. That's such a beautiful movie that they could cast a beautiful black actress that could play it. But something in a sense, or in the idea of representation and hiring someone that isn't meant to be for that role just to say, oh, I'm representing the black culture, I just don't think that's the right way to approach it.
Or create another avenue or space, another movie that is fictional, but for a black character. Because it's like this one was a one and done. It wasn't even like authentic representation. It was just like, okay, I'm gonna take this black actress person and drop them in that movie to show representation. So yeah, I get what you're saying.
Thanks for that, Casey. I was just thinking, how do we know what role was meant for whom? I think there's a history of excluding people of color, and it's not always because they're not suitable for the role, but rather the fear of people rejecting the character and the film not being profitable. And also, what is a black role? The black community is diverse, and we live all sorts of lives. So just a thought. And also, when you talk about representation, you do also have to talk about colorism, which is a huge concern. I've been reading a lot of books lately, written by women of African descent. And even within those books, I'm seeing colorism. And that was so surprising to me, given their audience. And so there's still a lack of representation with regards to all the shades found within our community. And this permeates many different genres and mediums, because colorism is so entrenched and embedded within the broader culture and within our community. And this can be seen in almost every corner of the world, at least the places that I have visited. And so, and this is also a reality in many communities of color. And it's part of the legacy, I think, of slavery and colonization, etc. So speaking of books, is there a book or a movie or a piece of music or art or lecture or some type of work created by someone of African descent that has had a lasting impact on you, someone whose work you really respect? And if I might add, if you could tell us who created the work, what that work is, and how exactly did it impact you?
There is a book when I was a kid that still have a lasting impression on me. It was called The Nutmeg Princess by Ricardo Kins Douglas. It's based in Grenada. It was a fable on self-esteem and true friendship, about two friends being able to see the Nutmeg Princess, but one being good and kind was able to see her over and over, but one who was greedy and wasn't that kind lost the sight of seeing the princess. It was all about our black gold, nutmeg. So nutmeg in our culture, it's really important. It's one of our export that brings a lot of revenue to the country or island, and it provides a lot of jobs. So that book had a really big impact on me because there is so much different things you can look at as beautiful. So many different colors, shapes, size. You look at beautiful. So that book explained and show us that beautiful can come in any different way. That story always stuck with me because of the message, because it inspires. It shows you different ways to look at things that some people may not think is beautiful, but you might think it's beautiful.
Thank you for that. Rickysha.
For me, I would say an artist. Her name is Julie Black, and she's a Canadian R&B singer, songwriter, and actress. She's also from the Jane and Finch community, which is also a representation of who I am. Back in 2023, she sang the national anthem at an NBA game in Toronto and said, "Our home on native land." That spoke volumes to show allyship and working together to bring truth. I feel that this was powerful because she used her platform to speak up, even though she got a lot of negative feedback. She still stood strong and she still sticked on her values, and a lot of people appreciate her for that, for just being herself and being able to speak her truth.
Yeah, actually, that was a great moment, actually. And it was bold. Yeah, so and I like the idea of just the allyship that we're not here alone, that I think there's lots that we can offer one another. Adyam, would you like to make a comment?
Yeah, so I'm not really, I can't think of one at the moment, but I love videos of Black commentators where I like to be challenged with my own like ideas and like worldview I have. So I love to watch, like, for example, there's Candace Owens. I love to watch her videos. She's American, but I love to be challenged on how I think and my perspective. So I love to watch when people are like challenging my train of thoughts and trying to I want to get different views.
But I guess that's the beauty of dialogue, I guess. Because I think that's important. I think we have to do more of that, just sitting down and not necessarily just only listening to people who have the same point of view that we do, but just also hearing a different perspective. And so at least, it gives you the opportunity to sort of challenge your own notions and to see if you really actually believe what you think you do. So, yeah.
I think that's lacking in conversation these days. Having this open dialogue where you can challenge each other but still be respectful, I think it's kind of lacking in most conversations.
I would agree with you. Adyam?
I think I agree too, because I feel like at this time, even at my school, I feel like people get offended like really fast, and like you can't really say an opinion unless it matches the norm or the narrative. And I feel like a lot of people don't want to really be challenged. They just say things to say things, not because and I don't like that. I like to speak my own ideas and have people challenge me, and it's good to respond and have a very informative conversation with people.
I think that's really lacking right now. And I feel like we've lost the ability to just to disagree and just to have an opposing viewpoint. And it's actually stunning to me. I think that we actually have to go back to, I think we have to learn how to do that again and do that in a respectful manner, because we really should be able to respectfully disagree, and we shouldn't be living in this sort of vacuum where, once again, like, everybody thinks the way that we do. Because I'm thinking, if you actually believe what you believe, you shouldn't be afraid to hear a different point of view. So I think that I feel like we have to relearn how to do that.
I think we have to relearn how to have conversations. We are so on our devices that the art of conversation is dying out. Instead of having a face-to-face dialogue, we will quickly send a text. It is okay to have different point of views. Having those conversations, we can look at things differently. So I think the art of conversation is really dying.
It's about intention. If you're having a conversation with someone and there's no malice, and the intention is to share information, then I think that's a great thing. I have conversations with people all the time, and I don't always agree with their thinking. However, it's still useful to hear their point of view, because at least I'll know that that perspective exists. And those ideas will now be part of my consciousness. And I think that's what's lacking now. We don't know how to listen to a different point of view or how to respectfully disagree. And if people don't like your opinion, they'll now call you names, they'll yell, They'll misrepresent what you said. They'll talk over you. They'll talk down to you. They'll stop listening, or they'll shut the conversation down. And I think that is a, huge loss. It's the loss of an opportunity to learn more, to stretch your mind a little, and to challenge or reaffirm your own thoughts and beliefs. This podcast is brought to you by North York Community House. North York Community House builds strong, resilient, and inclusive communities in Northwest Toronto. We help children, youth, parents, and seniors become active, engaged citizens who lead positive change in their neighborhoods. Find us at nych.ca. See you next time.